As I already explained, we have interpreting for the people that speak English, and simply have to indicate that you would like interpretation in English. Jasmine is our interpreter. She will be interpreting into the English language. We want to also describe a little bit how we're going to continue, how we're going to hold the group session. You have the option of the chat function, which is at the bottom, which is on your screen. So if you'd like to send a message and you go down to your additional options.
Okay. Y después tiene la
afterwards, you have the opportunity to also speak. And using your raising hand option. There's a small window. You simply have to go to the participants window, and then there's the option to raise your hand. And for those of you who are called by telephone, you just have to dial in something 9 in order to raise your hand. And then at the last little bit of this group meeting, we're going to separate into smaller groups. So where we can talk about the various alternatives in smaller groups. And for this, we begin with a welcome to our mayor, Rich Federino. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to our second meeting for the downtown area. I'm Rich Gabarino, and I am the mayor of South San Francisco. During this process of bringing to life this plan, we're going to get involved in how our government is beginning to respond to the needs of the residents in the downtown area. Diana is the person that's going to guide these sessions.
Diana?
Diana, you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you. También quería decir que
I also want to say that thank you to Mayor Gabarino and also for the team of people who are here developing in the downtown area, who are doing city, who are presenting these alternatives for land use here downtown. So this is a way that we can kind of come face to face with the larger political issues that are part of the whole development and that are part of how to develop the use of land. We want to give you a map, some roadmap on how the city will be, and some of the actions and some of the ideas that will be implemented. And for those of you who are not so familiar with how land development goes, we're going to, and it's also very important that we have your input, so that basically South San Francisco is developed according to the needs and to the input of its own community. And we really, really appreciate all of your inputs on how we're going to talk a little bit about the purpose of this meeting. We're going to speak specifically about downtown or the center. One of the sub-areas looking at for development. I'm going to give you a little bit of information also about the process breaking down. And talk a little bit about the various land uses, about mobility, about the land use. And for about, we're going to take the time for each of the individual breakout groups to talk about their particular ideas or their ideas about how the land should be used. We want to have a very interactive meeting because even though it's virtual, we're going to be giving you the opportunity at various points to participate in questionnaire so that you can give us your input. One question will be about your age, about your ethnicity, about the area or the neighborhood that you live in. And you guys can already start to give your feedback about who you are. The sub areas are basically how we're breaking down the various neighborhoods in South San Francisco in terms of development. Yeah. Old Town, Camino Real, Orange Park, Cypress. So we've broken it down into various areas.
Okay, ahí vamos.
There we go.
Okay, con eso parece que tenemos muchos que están entre las edades de 18 y 30.
It looks like we have quite a few people between the ages of 18 and 30. And we also have quite a few for Latinos. And this is not a big surprise. Thank you so much. Just remember, like whenever the questionnaire pops up, you can just click on the red button and you can start to answer questions. I wanted to start this with just a little bit of information about the parks in downtown. Some of the areas that are influenced by development or will be influenced. There are existing parks here downtown, like Person Pine Park, City Hall Place, and these are particularly addressed in Alternative 1. In June, we developed maps of the park kind of obscured by some of the alternatives. So it wasn't very easy to see how the parks were going to be affected. So we changed those maps so that you could see a little bit more what the impact will be. And these maps were changed only to really show the parks really are there and how they will or will not be impacted. We see this in maps of parks and recreations of Francisco. And we also wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about the problems that are specific to downtown, which may be different to some of the problems that there were last year in other areas. There were some issues around how parks would be preserved, how the natural areas would be maintained, also about overdevelopment, and also about the need for having some areas for childhood activities, for youth activities. Shape SSF is the coming to of the plan, as well as zonation, and also a plan that takes into account climate and all of the effects that all development might have. So what we're talking about here today is the general plan. We have to basically have input of the community so we can come up with a plan that also takes into account the inputs about from the people that live in the area. So we're developing what is basically a long-term politically driven document, or a document that's taking into account the politics of the area, the environment, the infrastructure, the transportation, and that also includes the need for more dwellings for people in the area. We want to continue to build on the strengths of the community and also to confront a number of issues that are basically issues that are concern to people. I'm going to say several times. I'm going to say several times during the course of this meeting that 1999 was the last time that this plan was updated. And now we're looking at certain things like the climatic effect, healthy communities, social, economic equality. So the general plan is basically a document that is connected with all the work that we've been doing. The themes, the plans, the political, and we need to continue to honor all of those facets of the plan. I want you to take a little bit of time to talk about how this plan is currently developing. We're going to have several meetings, we're going to have several reunions to talk about what your the climatic change, economic, health, and also questionnaire in the center in last year. We have been working on addition, building on existing infrastructure. Now we're looking at alternatives in order to eventually get to the final stage of the plan and to eventually get to the public. When we're looking at, we're going to get to the market of the political. And this is the heart and soul. And this is a way to look at some of the political differences, our addition to this plan. And I want to explain how we're going to go from the 3 alternatives to the designations for the, and now we we're going to create a map of the general plan. And this is the preferred alternative. And we're going to show
y van a notar que en las alternativas a la izquierda no hay
the alternatives on the left. When we get to, there are many more. This is because the zonification are more around specific uses, open spaces, and also differences, traditions, and because of this, there are more colors. We're going to be able to talk about different. Today, you're going to hear the opportunity to
pero van a tener más oportunidades.
You're going to have greater opportunity.
El mapa en el invierno y la primavera de 2021. Y ya quiero hablar un poco de el análisis que tuvimos que hacer para llegar a las alternativas. Para el centro, lo que aprendimos es que en el centro hay mucho uso mixto y sabemos que es el corazón de South San Francisco porque tiene corredores de comercio, minorista y es un lugar histórico, especialmente en la Grand Avenue y en la Linden Avenue. Y también sabemos que 20% de la población vive en el centro y que el centro tiene 5% de los trabajos y que tiene una mezcla de diferentes usos y que también tiene muchos usos públicos. Y eso incluye el City Hall y la biblioteca en la Grand Avenue. Y también les quería enseñar un poquito del
And
perfil.
also I wanted to, in the area there where we found that 80% of all of the city lives in the downtown area, and that there are many Latinos that live.
Y hay 10% de adultos mayores. Y también encontramos que casi 70% de la comunidad en el centro es comunidad latina. Después, que 17% de las viviendas están en el centro y también a la misma vez 3.5 personas por casa viven en el centro. Y eso solo quiere decir que hay muchas más personas viviendo por casa en el centro y eso quiere decir que hay familias más grandes o que viven en casas un poco más pequeños con familias grandes. Y la segunda cosa es que, como ya he dicho unas veces, no hay tantos parques en el centro. Solo hay 1.6 acres y después solo 56% de las casas están dentro de cuarta milla de un parque, en comparación con casi 100% en toda la ciudad. Y también les quería enseñar una mapa del uso de los suelos existentes. Y esto es lo que está ahorita en el suelo, en el centro. Entonces, si ustedes caminan por Grand Avenue o por Spruce, esto es lo que van a ver. Y pueden notar que hay mucho amarillo y eso dice que hay muchas residencias unifamiliares. Y también pueden ver que hay el anaranjado y el café oscuro. Hay muchos duplexes, triplexes, cuadruplexes y también residencia multifamiliar. Y también pueden notar que hay muchos otros diferentes colores y por eso dije que hay mucha variación en usos, con muchas tiendas y servicios como en la Grand y la Linden. Hay un poco de industrial.
Just as they're Grand and in Linden.
La librería, el City Hall, hay unos parques y hay mucha variación. Y también quería platicar un poco del empleo. En el centro tienen 4% de los empleos en toda la ciudad y en toda la ciudad hay como casi 60,000 trabajos, solo para darle el contexto. Y hay 4 diferentes sectores de empleo en el downtown y la gran mayoría son los artes, el alojamiento y servicio de comida y después es minorista y después la administración y servicio de soporte y después educación y salud. También quería hablar un poco de diferentes puntos claves que encontramos con todos estos reportes y también con todas las reuniones que tuvimos. Encontramos que otra vez el acceso a parques es limitado y también que hay un riesgo de desplazamiento de viviendas y comercios. Y por eso cuando empecemos a platicar en grupos es muy importante de hablar de diferentes estrategias y diferentes mecanismos que se pueden aplicar con nuestro uso de suelo. Y después hay preocupación por estacionamiento y tráfico y también hay poca cantidad de lotes vacíos. No hay tanto espacio de lotes vacíos donde se puede construir algo nuevo donde no hay nada ahorita. Y después quiero parar otra vez porque veo la encuesta en rojo, que les queremos preguntar de todos estos puntos claves. Van a ver, Dave, if you put the poll, van a haber muchas opciones y queremos escuchar de ustedes cuáles son los puntos más importantes para ustedes. Y ahí pueden ver que hay como unas 10, hay la congestión del tráfico, estacionamiento limitado, hay falta de espacio de parque, hay desplazamiento de la vivienda, hay desplazamiento comercial, hay hacinamiento en viviendas, hay falta de cuidado infantil, falta de vivienda asequible, contaminación ambiental, lo siento, falta de infraestructura para peatones, bicicletas. So, si pueden responder para decirnos cuáles son los dos problemas más importantes para ustedes en el área. Y la encuesta hay dos opciones, está en español y también ya está traducida en inglés de lado a lado. Y estoy viendo que a personas están teniendo dificultades en escuchar la interpretación. So Dave, can you try to reset the interpretation? It seems that it's choppy for people or they're having trouble hearing it.
Yeah, we just did. Jasmine logged off and back in, so we're trying it out again. Not sure what the issue is, but I think she's back on now and it should be working.
Okay.
How do we select the interpretation if we are calling in?
That is a great question. I don't believe there is an option if you're calling in, but we could look into that.
Okay, sounds good. Because yeah, we were recommended to call in if we were getting choppy audio, but then there's no interpretation. So I'll try dialing back in or joining the computer audio again.
Yeah, we apologize for that. I think the choppiness might have been just Zoom and or the interpretations end. So she should be back on now. Apologize for that.
Oh, no worries.
Thank you. All right, Dan, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you.
Okay. Not a problem. And let's do some quick testing just to make sure that folks can hear it clearly. So, Jasmine, si puede decir algunas cosas para ver si las personas pueden escuchar. Ok, perfecto. Lo siento mucho. Yo creo que hay muchas dificultades con esto de trabajar virtualmente y todos estamos en diferentes partes y el internet no siempre.
Working visually with video, and we're all in different locations. What we can say here is thank you so much for responding. And it seems like housing displacement was one of the big issues. And limited parking was another area as well of big concern. Thank you so much for sharing. And that some people said that they didn't have enough time to answer all of the questions. And I'm seeing that the sound is a little bit better now for some people. It's still choppy for others. Let us know, please, if there continue to be problems. Thank you so much for answering those questions. I wanted to talk a little bit about actual political situation. If you look at the map of the area that's current, which was created in 1999, the city did a specific plan for the downtown. In order to, the current plan is really looking towards the future. We want to say This current map is not exactly the way downtown looks today. What the current policy wanted to do was to basically promote the city downtown as the heart of the city and a pedestrian-friendly mixed-use activity center so that people could walk easily from their homes, so that they could do shopping easily and other activities. It was basically trying to create a hub so people could get to other parts of the city easily, and to promote like infill development, intensification, and reuse.
Aumentar las intensidades para poder tener más viviendas cerca de
And the
Caltrain.
city also wanted to intensify the use so that there would be a lot more businesses in the downtown area for greater access by having a lot of the downtown be accessible to the Caltrain station. Basically a hub that would be easily connected to parts of the city for walking, for bicycles. So there was a downtown station area specific plan that was implemented. What are some of the alternatives? The purpose of the alternatives are basically to test different land use and urban design patterns, to understand the trade-off between the various alternatives and make informed choices about the future. And what you're going to note is that we're going to show maps that are focused on downtown, but that also show some of the development. We're going to take into account all of the preferences that people have, and we're going to explore the different alternatives and see what the preferences are in terms of alternative 1, alternative 2, and 3, so that we can create a general plan that incorporates all of the opinions and all of the preferences of stakeholders, so that we can basically come up with a vision for the future. There are 3 components when we talk about different land uses. We look at the pattern of land uses, we look at the mix of the land uses, we look at the intensity of land uses. We apply all of these different components in order to evaluate the criteria. We look at the number of households, jobs, mobility, to see what are the differences among the 3 alternatives. And we also, when we look at these analyses, we did an analysis of market conditions. We looked at biotechnology, and we saw that it is the primary driver of development in the city. That is, the vast majority of jobs within the city are driven by biotechnology. There's still a strong demand. We've also seen that there's a strong demand for production, for distribution, for repair, and in particular, logistics and distribution. And what we've seen is that a lot of industrial firms cannot compete with the higher rents that the offices and the biotechnology companies can afford, because there's still a demand, and we're still seeing that there's the opportunity to have industrial sites of many So, but it's hard for industrial firms to compete with biotechnology. And there's still an opportunity to expand retail, which will continue to grow as long as there are still households and workers. So we're looking at a lot of mixed-use spaces where there will be not only households, but there will be also stores or businesses to serve these residents. And we also want to talk about some of the impacts of COVID-19. There have been economic, health, environmental, and other impacts. Again, the impacts have been not only health, but they've also been economic, as many people have lost their jobs. So we also know the most vulnerable populations in South San Francisco have been impacted. And there's less of a demand for example, retail, hospitality, and offices as the economy has been impacted. And that will affect the general plan. And we don't really know how long it will take for this community to basically come out from under the impact. And that also projected budget shortfalls are going to have to be weighed against the city's recovery needs. We don't know what the depth and length of the economic and market impact will be in the long and short term, and also what term changes will there be in terms of how we work, how we travel. The whole scenario, the whole landscape has changed. And another thing we want to say is that there have been a lot of protests throughout the country in terms of racial and ethnic equality. So it has been a climate of social change. It has been a climate of social and ethnic unrest, and we want to let you know that we are going to take into account all of your comments and all of your concerns when it comes to forming this plan. What I think too is that there is a large need for housing units, not only in South San Francisco, but throughout the region. So it's a question of balancing how many households there will be in the area with the number of jobs that will also be created.
Evaluación de las necesidades regionales de la vivienda y están determinando.
And the Bay Area is right now in the process of another cycle of evaluating exactly how many households will be needed, the future regional housing needs. Because there's now housing shortage crisis, the city is going to basically, the city is going to be asking South San Francisco to basically create 2 to 4 times the current number of housing units that it had previously assigned. So the number of housing units that will be built in the next 10 or so years is going to be between 3,700 and 7,400 units. So between 2040 and 2045, there's also going to be a much greater need for housing than had previously been estimated. And now we're looking at anywhere between 11 to 11,200 and 22,300 units. So now let's look at some of the different types of places or building blocks in terms of land use. This, for example, is a slide that's showing high density mixed use. The various colors on the map are designating the various types of land use or place type. High density mixed use, average height buildings, 6 to 8 stories, residential density of 80 to 120 units per acre. It's going to have a variety of commercial businesses that will also be interspersed with the housing. As we basically roll out the plan, when we will see what type of intensity there will be in terms of land use, as far as the proportion of housing units to businesses, etc. This is already the type of land use that is permitted adjacent to the Caltrain in Grand Avenue. And also along Linden Avenue. Right now, it's about 40 units per acre land use. When you look at a map of high density mixed use, which is like a darker orange, that's something that we're looking at an area with about 6 to 8 stories average height, 80 units per acre, and really no commercial use. Also a medium density residential, which is like a lighter on the map, average height 3 to 5 stories, about 60 units per acre, and no commercial. And we're looking at residential transitions as well. We're going to have alternatives where the intensity of mixed, high, or medium intensity will transition from one to the other.
Una casa de una planta y después al lado una casa de 8 plantas que vamos a implementar.
It's going to be a variety of household or types of living structures or residential structures that will not necessarily jump from, say, a 3-story to a 5-story to an 8-story, but it'll be more uniform. And now we'll look at some of the alternatives in downtown. Some of we looked at different ideas when we tested the alternatives for downtown. The first was how to create a mixed-use, transit-oriented community adjacent to Caltrain. How to allow the downtown mixed-use pattern to continue going further south. How to develop a mixed-use corridor along North Airport Boulevard, and also creating a neighborhood center at Linden and North Airport Boulevard, and how to improve connectivity in general. How to ensure ourselves that we would also create more household living spaces. We wanted to create a way for people to be able to, and also wanted to talk a little bit about proposed vision and policy. I want to say that the vision or the downtown area specific plan was created in 2015, and And I want to ask your opinion about this plan in the following. We are looking to create a revitalized downtown that promotes new residential mixed use and employment uses, focusing on new improvements on Grand Avenue and improving pedestrian and bicycle connections to Caltrain and Eastern 101 through the implementation of the downtown station area specific plan. Y ahora sí, quieren ir, now if you'd like to see the questionnaire, to give us your thoughts on this specific plan. What are your thoughts?
Oh, lo siento, eso está fuera de orden. Déjame escoger la correcta. Aquí.
That was out of order. Let me see if I can put it there correctly. We want to know how you feel about the downtown station area specific plan, the vision, and the guiding policy. Do you agree with this vision statement? Or no? So please respond according to your level of agreement with the proposed vision and policy. And it's written in English and Spanish. I'd like to give you a little bit more time.
Y les quiero dar 10 más segundos.
I'm going to give you all about 10 more seconds.
Okay. Y similar, pues similarmente a lo que escuchamos en la primera junta.
Similarly to the first meeting, many people are not in agreement with this vision. Thank you so much for sharing your opinion on this. When we break out into smaller groups, you'll have the opportunity to give your opinions on why you're not in agreement with the proposed vision or with the vision statement. Thank you so much.
Okay, ya finalmente llegamos a los mapas.
So finally, we're getting to the first alternative, or alternative one. There's a focus on the downtown station area specific plan, maintaining mixed use at the downtown core along Grand Avenue, creating a mixed use transit oriented community near Caltrain. And you're going to note that these darker areas means that there's a higher intensity use. And we want to allow mixed use to creep in order to continue supporting downtown. So basically, we want to be able to have residents be more closely connected to natural areas. If you look at the map, the rail areas are connected to Lindenville and are connected to more housing as well.
Viviendas que estamos proponiendo que empleos cerca de downtown en particular.
And you're going to note that with the plan, there's also more housing structures that are planned, which will also bring in more employment So we're looking to bring in more jobs as well as more housing units. There are medium density, high density, residential, and also medium density mixed use. The transit nucleus, where we've got access to Caltrain. So more people that are living near all of the transit. Wanted to take a little bit time to show you that in Alternative 1, which is different from the existing general plan, there are certain areas, this one and this one, where the area by the airport. Just to note that with the other meetings that we've had, the sub-area meeting, Lindenville and other areas, the downtown area has been an area where there hasn't been an awful lot of change. And you can see in Alternative 2 that we are continuing to develop the plan for downtown for mixed use and to create like a sort of mixed use community that closer to the Caltrain transit station and south of Railroad. And we're also recommending a more higher density land use near the airport with commercial spaces, more households, so basically mixed use housing units where you can have businesses on the first floor and also have residents living on the floors above that. And also higher density mixed use areas with a mix of stores, retail stores, as well as we're also proposing a lot more housing units in this downtown area. And here's some examples of how that could look in Alternative 2. And I'm seeing the messages. I'm just giving you all of the information. And then we're going to have a whole hour, or full hour, in which people can kind of break out and give their opinions. I just want to get all the information out there so that you guys have plenty of time in order to discuss the various alternatives. I also wanted to show you that in Alternative 2, the changes, which are different to the current actual plan or general plan. There are some similarities to Alternative. There's higher density here. For example, also adjacent to the airport. And also then Alternative 3 is the last. It's also going to continue to have mixed use downtown or along Grand Avenue, along and near the Caltrain station, and allowing for higher density mixed use. We want to be able to also incorporate businesses and retail as well as households, going all the way down towards Toma Creek in order to support the downtown. Alternative 3 is a little bit more heavy households than Alternatives 1 and 2.
los cambios que estamos haciendo, que son diferentes del plan general actual ahorita.
And some of the other changes that would be different to the current chapter would be here. This would connect residents to another residential area. And there's some sections here and here by airport and Lindenville would be mixed use centers, not only with house, but also with all of the retail needs and other mixed use activities. Not going to go over these three alternatives again, but just keep in your mind or keep as a reference these images of alternatives 1, 2, and 3. And I would like to also talk about the opportunities and challenges that we have as we look at these alternatives. Some of the opportunities is that we'll be able to reinforce downtown part of South San Francisco to help address the local crisis with new affordable and workforce housing. We also have the opportunity to support Caltrain transit ridership and reduce the need for private vehicles. Also to enhance the open space network or access to a lot of open spaces. If you see the green circles, those are some of the green open spaces that we have. Some of the challenges are potential displacement of lower income residents, in particular Latino population. It particularly can impact the Latino population, and also potential displacement of commercial and industrial businesses. When we have this hour to speak, I want you to focus on some different strategies in order to ensure that the changes that we choose will allow for less displacement and will allow for the people who are currently living here to remain here. And another challenge is limited parks and open spaces. Which makes it difficult when you want to create higher density space. Now we're going to go to questions, and we also have another questionnaire. Let me see if I can find it. Just 2 questions. 1, at this moment, do you have any preference in terms of an alternative? It doesn't have to be your final vote because we're going to have a whole hour in which to discuss all of the alternatives. I just want to know, I want to get like a first read on what you're feeling right now, but this doesn't have to be your final opinion.
Okay, y veo que no tantos han respondido, so les quiero dar un poco más
And I see
tiempo.
that not many people have responded, so I'm going to give you more time to respond.
Y estoy viendo algunas preguntas de Trini y de Daniel.
And I'm seeing some questions from Trini. Why so many buildings? Why so many high buildings? And will this affect accessibility to the community of South San Francisco? And what and asking about whether or not it's more affordable to build higher storied structures. And Daniela's asking about the alternative for downtown. Is the city going to be making its decisions based citywide response, or is it going to be neighborhood by neighborhood?
Si, por ejemplo, todos escogen alternativa 2, que exactamente eso vamos a escoger.
We're taking a lot of opinions and gathering opinions from people from throughout the city. We had various meetings. We don't want to say that if, you, for example, choose alternative 2, alternative 3, or any alternative, that we're going to choose that one in particular. We're just gathering as many opinions and as much feedback as we can, and we're trying to see what the general opinions are and how people feel. So we see here what the preferences are as far as the alternatives, and we're looking at how important it is for future jobs and housing growth being balanced.
We have a lot of questions on the mural. You want to,
Yes.
It might be best for you just to go straight on there and read them if you're on the board. It's under the alternative section on sticky notes.
Hay muchas preguntas. There are a lot of questions on the sticky board.
Read them and then we could interpret them. Is that best? Or?
Yeah, sure. Or actually, are you seeing my presentation right now or the screen?
We could see your presentation.
Okay.
Yeah. But
what about now?
Yeah, then it was going to your screen. Why don't you just stop sharing for a second? Yeah, and then just go onto the Miro board and answer questions real quick. Thanks for your patience, all. There you go. If you go down to the alternative summary, you'll see a list of questions there on the left.
Okay. Lo siento, mi internet está un poco... Okay, ya lo estoy viendo.
Oh, excuse me. It's been a little bit difficult with the technology.
Maybe you want to read them out loud and then answer them. Can you see them? Yeah.
Sure. Ajá, sí. Okay, Marcela está preguntando por
Marcela's
qué
asking,
es la única área que tiene alta densidad cuando el perfil de la área ya enseña que hay muchas personas viviendo en una unidad. Porque
so
no hay
she's asking, why is it only downtown that has high density mixed use when downtown is already very congested? There are already plenty of people downtown. It's because when we were looking at where we were going to be able to put more households, that we were looking at areas where there aren't already a lot of living units. And so this is why we looked at downtown, because it's an area where, although it is congested, there weren't a lot of residences. There weren't a lot of residential units.
Los mapas y también estamos trabajando con la ciudad para identificar otras oportunidades y ellos completaron un plan de...
We've been looking very carefully at the city maps in terms of households, and we're really working closely with the city to identify where there's an opportunity to place additional household units. So we're really looking at the big picture.
Kat está diciendo que el área del centro ya ha cambiado significativamente.
Pat has said that the downtown area has already changed significantly. And we have seen that it has already changed quite significantly. Yeah, we have known that downtown is already an area that has developed and changed. The sub-areas that we're looking at are Lindenville, Camino Real. There are areas that have less change. Lindenville and other outlying areas are rather close, but we're looking also to how we can further change the way the map looks in terms of households by looking at the outlying areas with your input.
Tengo una pregunta aquí de cómo podemos cambiar la visión para el centro y una de las, lo que quiero asegurar que tengamos tiempo es de poder platicar desde el comienzo. Gracias, Wendy, por hacer esa pregunta. Es de poder platicar sobre qué quisieran cambiar. Y,
one other question was, how can we change this vision statement downtown? And I just want to say that that's why we're having these conversations, so that we can have your input from the very beginning and talk about how you would like it to change and what you would like to see for a vision statement. And somebody said it would have been a great option to be able to choose, what if I don't like any of the existing plans or alternatives? We really just want you to tell us, please, 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 what are your preferences and what do you want to see?
Pero que Old Town necesita viviendas asequibles.
And another comment is that, yes, we're going to need more households. Yes, we need more household units, but Old Town needs to have housing built that is also accessible. How are we going to build accessible housing?
Y para eso voy a decir es por cuál una de las razones que tenemos todo ese uso mixto morado como en Railroad, bajando al lado en Lindenville y en el este de 101, y cuando lleguemos al tiempo de platicar sobre las políticas de mecanismo, vamos a ver cómo es posible.
When people ask about accessible housing for everyone, especially for the existing residents, that's why we're talking about mixed use south of the railroad down to Lindenville, East 101. So we're trying to address those needs for housing that is accessible with mixed use throughout.
Del medio ambiente y también la equidad,
and
y tenemos muchas diferentes políticas y mecanismos anotados.
We're also looking at the issues of social justice, environmental justice, equality, all these things we want to have be a part of the guiding policy for the development of this area. And this includes safeguards for people that are currently renting, people that are currently living in the area. So that we can have the policy in place that will protect people that are currently living in the area, and so that the housing continues to be accessible and affordable to them.
Y Amparo preguntó cuál es la alternativa que se quede como está ahorita, y esto sería el current general, el plan, lo siento.
And Amparo is that, what would be the alternative where everything would stay exactly as it is right now? And I'm going to say that that would be the current general plan that's currently in place. But we're really looking at mixed use down towards Coleman.
Marcela está preguntando por qué los empleados de biotech no están dispersed, lo siento, en diferentes áreas de la ciudad y no solo en cerca del centro, y que no eso sería más, más mejor.
Marcela is asking, why can biotech employees be evenly dispersed around the city as opposed to just in the city center?
Proponiendo viviendas en el Camino Real y también en el este de 101 y también al sur de Colma Creek, so en Lindenville. Y no solo es en esta área. Y también lo que quiero notar
Yeah,
es
that's exactly why we're proposing housing units in El Camino Real, east of 101, south of Colma Creek, and those other areas that are not just downtown, in order to have housing units be dispersed throughout the city.
atrás de las áreas donde hay residencias unifamiliares. Y eso es algo que en la ciudad han visto que ha empezado a crecer, pero en el condado en particular ha crecido mucho. Y eso también es una oportunidad. Y lo siento, hay muchas preguntas, estoy tratando de
I'm
ver.
sorry, there are quite a few questions. I'm trying to address everyone's questions, but I don't know how we're doing on time.
We are pretty close to on track. There are a lot of questions. If you want to just remind folks again that we're going to get into small groups and have an opportunity to discuss there. But we are taking down all these comments as we go, and we will include them in the summary. But yeah, we should probably transition to small groups very soon.
Okay.
Yep.
Le estaba preguntando a Dave cómo vamos en el tiempo porque quiero
I was
asegurar
asking Dave how we're doing on time, because we're going to need about an hour for the smaller groups to break out and discuss the various alternatives. And then we'll come back together to give a recap of what was discussed in the groups and what the various smaller breakouts that.
a empezar a hablar en nuestros grupos de discusión y para poder separarnos.
So we're going to break out now into the various
Vamos
groups.
a empezar con platicando, déjame compartir mi página.
We're going to start with, let me share a page here.
Preguntarles qué opinan de la visión y después tenemos diferentes preguntas específicas.
So we're going to start with everyone discussing what you feel about the current vision, and then we're going to have opinions about the various alternatives and the various density, and for your input on various. And then,
de cuáles son las diferentes mejoras o estrategias del área para un área prioritaria en particular o para todo el centro que ustedes tienen y pueden.
And also, I want to get your input as to what are the various strategies and what are your preferred choices in terms of not only the downtown area, but various neighborhoods. We really want to make sure that we get all your input and we gather your insights. We have various individuals, some only speaking English and others only speaking Spanish. So those that speak only English, please raise your hand so that we can gather you into an English-speaking group. So those of you who speak English, please raise your hands, and then later we'll have Spanish raise their hand so that we can put you in a separate group.
There she is. Diane, I'm going to hand it back to you to go ahead and bring us home. I'm assuming, Diana, do you think it's safe at this point to maybe do the rest of this in English, or would you like to continue in Spanish? Oh, you're muted, Diana. Sorry. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think that there are still people here that would prefer to hear it in Spanish.
Okay,
And so,
no problem. So what we'll have to do then, if you can go ahead and give a report out of your group in Spanish, and then because we don't have the reverse translation set up at this point, unless we have people transition back and forth to the interpretation, I might have to have you just translate back whatever our groups report out, just to make it easier.
yeah.
Does that work? Okay.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I
Okay.
can do that.
So why don't you go ahead and start with a report out of your group and then explain to those Spanish speakers that will also be reporting out from the others.
Ok, so lo que vamos a hacer ahorita es que vamos a, ¿pueden ver mi pantalla? No, todavía, no, está bien, no tienen que ver mi pantalla. Vamos a platicar sobre lo que escuchamos en los grupos y vamos a dar un resumen breve. Y yo voy a empezar con el grupo que yo hice en español y después lo voy a traducir en inglés, y ya para los próximos grupos vamos a tomar un poquito de tiempo para traducir lo que los otros grupos dijeron. So I just said everything they said. Entonces,
just real quick,
yes.
Sorry, Dana, just for those English speakers on, just want to note that Jasmine is still available, and she is.
I am still available, and I am interpreting everything into English.
Go ahead and jump on that channel as Diana speaks. Sorry about that, Diana.
En mi grupo,
In my
platicamos
group,
sobre
we talked about a lot of the needs that individuals had, like basic needs, parks, maintenance of parks, lighting in the neighborhoods. People needed like community centers, parks, places to congregate, not so much taller buildings. And it was also discussed that in Lindenville, it's possible to have structures that are a little bit lower.
Y quería notar que Olga fue una de las personas, fue la persona que creó una petición hace unos meses cuando estuvo preocupada.
And I wanted to say that Olga was one of the people in my group, and Olga was one of the people that had a petition because she was concerned about parks being removed. And so we just wanted to share that we had addressed that concern about parks being eradicated, that the parks aren't going to go away. So that was one of the things that we did talk about in our group.
And so I assume Jasmine was translating that?
Yes, she was. Yep, she got all that. So with that, and you could let them know, I guess, what I say, Diana, so we get this clear, but we'll go ahead and go to Eric's group and ask them to report out on some of the key themes that they discussed with Erica and Jessica. Which one do you want?
So Eric o Jessica ahorita van a explicar lo que platicaron en
And
su grupo.
Jessica is going to talk a little bit about what was discussed in her group.
Actually, we have Jessica in that group. We could have her actually say it in Spanish.
Okay.
Why don't we do
Perfecto.
that?
Jessica lo va
Y Jessica nos va a hablar. Jessica is going to speak to us in Spanish, and I'll interpret into the English.
Vamos a escuchar en inglés y en español. Okay.
Ok. Dame un momento para repasar.
Give me a little second to basically go over this stuff.
Ok, listo. Salieron 3 ideas de la discusión en el grupo.
3 ideas came out
La
of the group
primera,
discussion.
y la que tuvo, como la mayoría de la gente está de acuerdo,
The first
fue
one and
en
the one that
proteger
most
la
people
avenida
agreed with.
Grand. La gente que participa en el grupo piensa que el diseño es muy único y especial y debería preservarse.
It was about Grand Avenue being a very special place that needs to be preserved, that needs to
no
be
solo es
honored.
preservarlo, pero también agregar elementos de diseño parecidos a lo de Grand a los edificios alrededor de él.
And not only about maintaining Grand Avenue, but adding certain elements, stylistic elements to the areas around Grand Avenue, the buildings and other structures with that same style.
De que en la Linden y Pine se construya un centro comunitario.
And the other idea was a community center along Linden and Pine, a place to congregate.
Más en acuerdo con lo que se presentó de las alternativas, sobre la área que queda, y eso tal vez se va a preguntar a Eric que me ayude, pero la área que queda sobre Railroad y entre Coma Creek, ahí sí está la gente de acuerdo que sería una buena área para un vecindario nuevo, para tener más viviendas.
The third idea that came out of our talk was that the area down in the railroad area and down towards Coma Creek would be a great area to develop. That would be a fantastic area to develop more housing units and just general development.
Voy a hablar un poco en inglés para preguntarle a Eric si hay algo más. Eric, was there anything on top of the three ideas?
Paula, good. Okay, Patricia, if you would like to, actually, Diana, I'll let you introduce Patricia. Oh, I think you might be muted.
Lo siento, y ahora va a platicar
Okay,
a
I think our
Patricia
technology
sobre...
is starting to fail us. It's
And now
okay.
Patricia's going to talk a little bit about.
You're on, Patricia.
Okay, Patricia, thank you so much for listening to us. Can you hear me? Our group.
Lo que ya dijo Diana y lo que dijo Jessica, también nuestro grupo piensa que el centro de downtown se debe mantener más peatonal, con menos densidad, apoyar a los negocios pequeños.
Similar to Diana and Jessica's group, feel that downtown should be maintained as a very, very kind of pedestrian-friendly, walkable area with those small retail, family-owned businesses, with a sort of look and feel of like of a downtown where people get together, lots of green spaces.
Entonces también que se provea espacios verdes para las
personas que van a estar. If there's going to be higher density use, that you still need to have parks and green spaces interspersed with that.
Or that get translated.
No, I think Jasmine lo tradució. Okay. So, muchísimas gracias a todos por compartir y ya quiero.
Thank you so much, everyone, for participating.
Unas pocas diapositivas más.
And I want to show you a couple of slides.
Un tiempo que ya estaba viendo en el chat que muchas personas están apreciando a Olga y quería decir que Olga tomó tiempo libre para poder ir en persona a pasar flyers para que
I wanted to say that a lot of people really appreciate Olga's page and the fact that she went door to door, handing out flyers and information so that people are actively involved in the process. And also wanted to again reiterate that we have an online question in both English and Spanish for, downtown El Camino, Lindenville, for the various sub areas in both English and Spanish. And it's very, very important that you fill out these questionnaires and also pass them on to your friends and people that you know so that they all participate. And that there's also a planning committee meeting that's going to be presenting all of the things that we've discussed today since back in July. And also for the board to give their perspective. And you guys can also participate in this meeting and give your opinions. And also that there are open office hours, that virtual hours, all of every Tuesday in August, 12 in the you can give your feedback about the general plan or particular initiative. And you can also go to the website to grab any information you might want as well. I want to say thank you so much. And one more thing that the mayor would like to say. Mayor? Mayor Garbarino?
Hi. I'm back. I've been muted. I'm sorry. Muchas gracias por todo.
Thank you to everyone for this night. The information that we shared here tonight is very important for everyone here in South San Francisco. Thank you, thank you, thank you to all of you who participated. Thank you so much. Have a great. We're gonna have the tape of this evening in both English and Spanish. Thank you so much. Good night.